Yeah, Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Wahara Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel who really teach well, to the Akim, to the Iwis and Byways, and those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. Now, this lesson, what I want to do is based on a video that a brother posted in the chat room. And, we speak about the mark of the beast. The scriptures are in Revelation 13 talks about the Motb, the mark of the beast. And, we teach that this is the microchip. But for this system to be put in place, there's a foundation that has to be laid. And what I want to look at now is some of the foundation that's been laid for this system to come in place. Now, it's something that I've slightly touched before previously, things like the Internet of Things. There's a brother, an elder, Salakia, from GMS Fair the Mosai 7. He goes very good and in depth in this, showing you the foundations that's been laid for the system to come in place. And I've touched it slightly before, but check out the elder's channel, man. He goes into it a bit more in depth than I do, but I want to cover some of the things that's been done for the system to come in place, because not everyone believes that the microchip is actually the mark of the beast. And it's not everything that will be, like it speaks about you can't buy or sell. I'll read that precept later on. But the chip is what gives you access to everything else that's being put in place. And I just want to look at some of the things that's being put in place. And the lesson I did before covered some of these things, but it's always good to go over these things and see how the system is being put in place and how it's going to come into play. So one of the things that Esau is put into place is what's known as the Internet of Things. Now, this is a little article explaining what the Internet of Things is. Yeah. It says the Internet of Things, or IoT, is a system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines, objects, animals, or people that are provided with unique identifiers, UIDs. It says, and the ability to transfer data over a network without requiring human to human or human to computer interaction. And one of the purposes of these 5Gs that they're putting out is because it's a faster form of internet, which allows these things to perform at better speed and better quality. Like it had 2G, then after that was the 3G, which is faster than the 2G. You got the 4G, and now you got 5G, which allows some of these things which are trying to put in place to work better. It says a thing in the Internet of Things can be a person with a heart monitor implant, and this will be more known as the Internet of Bodies. Yeah, if you look at, let me quickly see something. Because Internet of Bodies more deal with things that are implanted. Internet of Bodies. So what is the Internet of Bodies? Let's just quickly, and this is something that Elon Musk has been trying to do, and on the surface of everything, they pass these things off as things that will make things easier for you, make life better, which they can do, but these are never used ultimately for the purpose that is given. Let's see what this is. It says in the 20th century, wireless technology integrated with the human body, was nothing more than science fiction. But today, Wi-Fi connected devices like heart rate monitors, yeah, so that's part of the Internet of Bodies, and sleep trackers have become common parts of American life. How has bionic technology evolved so quickly from science fiction to reality? And what could this Internet of Bodies mean for our lives moving forward? It's like a Rand researchers are studying this phenomenon and what consumers and policymakers need to know as we veer into uncharted territory. It says the Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the internet that contain software that can either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. So things like pacemakers, yeah, where people have dodgy hearts and they put the mechanical part inside to help your heart work better. That's a part of Internet of Bodies. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about you. And in healthcare, Internet of Bodies has been around for quite a while. See, with the advent of the internet, it makes a lot of sense to connect your pacemaker, as I was saying, to the internet so that your doctor can be automatically notified if something weird happens. If there's an anomaly, it's natural in a lot of ways to want to understand more about your body, how it functions, how well it's doing, and you know, Salaki is let me quickly check something. And this is how these things are normally passed off. Yeah, check something. All right, it's normally passed off as something which is beneficial to you, but there's always an ulterior motive. So going back to the Internet of Things, and like I said, these is what Esau is putting in place, to so that when he's ready, he can perform or put in place or activate the Motb, the mark of the beast. So going back to Internet of Things, what is the Internet of Things? The Internet of Things, or IoT, is a system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines, objects, animals, or people that are provided with unique identifiers and the ability to just transfer data over a network without requiring human-to-human or human-to-computer interaction. And what you have to realize, the chip itself, because we teach that the mark of the beast is a chip. All that does is give you access to all these other things, the foundation of things which they are putting in place. And I'm going to go through a few videos just to show how they're laying this foundation. So the thing in the Internet of Things can be a person with a heart monitor, which is actually part of the Internet of Bodies, a farm animal with a biochip transponder. So Elon Musk, he's got a video where he's apparently put a chip inside a monkey, which allows it to do certain things. I think in one of the lessons I did, you got this monkey where they implanted a chip and it was doing certain things on a computer. Before the chip was added, then they added a chip which records what it's doing, and then they stopped. What was it they did? They stopped. Let me quickly see if I can find that. I think they stopped before it was the monkey following a certain pattern. Then they stopped that pattern and the monkey was doing it. Oh, that's what it was doing. It was doing it via brain control. Yeah. It says I think if you're going to turn and look up IOTB, IOB, and BCI, brain chip implant, you see that. It says a thing in the Internet of Things can be a person with an heart monitor implant, a farm animal with a biochip transponder, and all. Let me quickly look at this. biochip transponder. Injectable ID chip. There's an injectable ID chip, also called a biochip transponder, is an electrical device that is inserted under the skin. What is the purpose? So let's continue reading. Let me quickly click on this. Okay, reload. Right, well, that's not going to work. Oh, here we go. Yeah, right. Anyway, let me go back to what I was reading. So lucky is when it says a thing in the Internet of Things can be a person with an art monitor implant, a farm animal with a biotransponder, an automa, and so we know that a biochip transponder is something that is placed under the skin, an automobile that has built-in sensors to alert the driver when tire pressure is low, or any other natural or man-made object that can be assigned as an internet protocol IP address and is able to transfer data over a network. And part of the Internet of Things then goes into smart cities, which I'll also have a look at. It says increasingly, organization is a variety of industries. Increasingly, organizations in a variety of industries are using the Internet of Things to operate more efficiently, better understand customers, to deliver enhanced customer service. And this is something that they do. They always try and pass these things off as ways to make life easier or to improve on life in itself, not mention the fact that they themselves have an ulterior motive. It says improve decision making and increase the value of the business. How does IoT work? An IoT system ecosystem consists of web-enabled smart devices that use embedded systems such as processors, sensors, and communication hardware to collect, send, and act on data they acquire from their environments. IoT devices share the sensor data they collect by connecting to an IoT gateway or other edge device where data is either sent to the cloud to be analyzed or analyzed locally. Sometimes these devices communicate with other related devices and act on the information they get from one another. It says the devices do most of the work without human intervention. Yeah. And although people can interact with the devices, for instance, to set them up, give them instructions, or access the data. So, like I was saying, the Internet of Things, which they're doing, is part of the foundation. So you've got the Internet of Things, smart cities, Internet of Bodies. These are all part of the foundation which ESO is setting in place, but ultimately is Motb. Now, part of the smart cities, which we're going to look at in a minute, now, some of these things involve driverless cars. That's part of the smart cities, which is a step up from the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Things allow these things to be able to be put in place. So I want to look at this driverless car. It says how driverless cars will change our world, and then I'll show a short video, play part of a short video to show how the smart cities come into play. Like I said, all of these things are the foundation or the infrastructure that ESO is actually putting in place for is Motb, is Mark of the Beast. Now, it says self-driving vehicles are steadily becoming a reality despite the many hurdles still to be overcome, and they change our world in some unexpected ways. It says it's late night in the metro area of Phoenix, Arizona. Under the artificial glare of street lamps, a car can be seen slowly approaching. Active sensors on the vehicle radiate a lower hum. And on this car here, you can see the sensors. You've got like a camera in the back, probably part of a sensor on the left and on the right. And these are things which has been tested previously as well. You know, so they can do these things now. It says a green and blue W glows from the windscreen, giving off just enough light to see inside to a completely empty driver's seat. The wheel navigates the curb steadily, parking as an arrival notification pings on the phone of the person waiting for it. And at times you've probably seen like these vehicles of one of these, I won't mention the name, but it's also the name of a web page. You know, they're driving around, and what they're actually doing, they've got cameras all over this car and it maps the street, but it's also mapping how things are, and it helps for these driverless vehicles. Yeah, it says the wheels navigate the curbs steadily, parking as an arrival notification pings on the phone of the person waiting for it. When they open the door to climb inside, a voice greets them over the vehicle sound system. Good evening, this car is all yours with no one up front, it says. This is a Waymo One Robo taxi, hailed just 10 minutes ago using an app. The open use of this service to the public, slowly expanding across the US, is one of the many developments signaling that driverless technology is truly becoming a part of our lives. And what does this do? Like for businesses, if you're a taxi firm, you not only have to, especially if you're renting out the taxi, you have to pay for the maintenance of the taxi, but also you have to pay for the driver. So even if it's a driver that has his own vehicle, you can cut that cost by purchasing your own vehicle and only paying for maintenance. You don't have to pay the driver itself. Yeah. And these are things which are sold as in something which can help your business grow, or something, you know, which makes your life easier. The promise of driverless technology has long been enticing, you see. And this is what the devil does. He entices you to things. It has the potential to transform our experience of commuting and long journeys, take people out of high-risk working environments, and streamline our industries. Yeah. So, like I was just saying, instead of paying for the driver and the maintenance of the car, you just pay for the maintenance of the car. You don't need to pay the driver. That's streamlining because you're cutting down your costs. It says it's key to helping us build the cities of the future, and that is smart cities, where our reliance and relationship with cars are redefined, lowering carbon emission and paving the way for more suitable ways of living. So these driverless cars are normally electric cars, not petrol. And it could make our travel safer. The World Health Organization estimates that more than 1.3 million people die each year as a result of road traffic accidents. And these road traffic accidents are down to human error. So they're basically saying that, you got a computer system which is monitoring all of these things. And you'll see in the video I show of the smart city how they say these things can reduce road traffic accidents. We want safer roads and less fatalities. Automation ultimately could provide that. Oh, there you go. I didn't read down this far. It says Camilla Fowler, head of automated transport for the UK's Transport Research Laboratory. But in order for driverless technology to become mainstream, much still needs to change. And this is what they're doing. They're putting these infrastructures in place so that they can actually do these things, yeah? So you've got the Internet of Things, which is part of the foundation which is being laid for the Motb to be put in place. And then you got things like smart cities. So I just want to show this video here on the smart city. And you'll see how, where they're talking about these things will make life safer, how they say this will actually play if you actually have things like the Internet of Things and the smart cities.
City of the future is smart. It's entirely interconnected, will regulate traffic, save energy, fight crime, assisted by big data and the Internet of Things. Brave new world, or rather a surveillance nightmare. What could smart cities look like, and do we really want to live there? Our topic today on Shift. More than half of the world.
And this is a video that I've played before, and another lesson that I've done, but because more of the infrastructure is being put into place, this would probably make more sense now, you know?
Most population lives in cities, and this number is steadily rising, resulting in enormous challenges. More people, more traffic, more pollution, more energy consumption.
And when you look at what's happening, it's like over in London, for us to drive from London to like Bristol, along the motorway that I have to travel, you see expanse of open spaces. So why are they cramming people into certain areas? It's to say, oh look, it's overcrowded, you know, let's bring these things into place to make life a bit more easier. You know, it's all part of a plan.
More water usage, more waste. Smart cities are supposed to help cope with these problems. Projects are popping up everywhere. For instance, in Nigeria.
So you then, you know, someone's running, you trip them over and give them plaster, and you're helping solving a problem that you caused in the first place.
South Korea, India, or Malaysia. A livable city that can think for itself. How does this work? Like this, for example.
Visions of the future. This is a smart city, as imagined by tech companies and urban planners. Regular streetlights are replaced by smart poles, which connect to other Internet of Things devices and provide broadband. Thanks to driverless cars, accidents hardly ever happen.
So that goes back again to what I was saying, you know, when we were reading about the driverless cars, you know, accidents will reduce, because now they're saying the technology is what would help prevent these things, you know.
And drones and robots deliver goods, even coffee. In this future city, salad grows underground at the urban farm. Augmented and virtual reality make processes more efficient. One example.
And all of this really is to get you then dependent, because as they put certain things into place, they're stripping away certain things that you would do for yourself to make you independent. Now you're becoming more dependent on the system.
Is that firefighters on duty can be assisted by the control center.
And when you're doing, you know, giving this kind of, it sounds good. You know, the scripture speaks about, it's right now in 22, the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. And this is what this kingdom produces, the knowledge of wickedness, because there's always an ulterior motive, even though it's played off as something which is good for our people.
And tech helps to find and correct system errors to prevent damage before it happens.
Sounds fantastic. But in order for these ideas to become reality, technical preconditions are essential. A central role falls to the new mobile communication standard 5G. It's the engine for the Internet of Things.
You see that? So you can understand why 5G is being rolled out, because it makes these things easier to flow, because there's an internet system which needs to be used to monitor these things, yeah? Or,
and enables
or to help these things to work at an efficient speed.
Connected infrastructures on a grand scale. An expert on smart cities is Jonas Böhm. He is a researcher at the Institute for Technology Management at the University of St. Gallen and has published a book with guidelines for cities that want to become smart. We wanted to know, how do I make a city smart? And why?
We want to improve people's lives. That's how I would summarize the goal of a smart city. In order to do this, it's important for citizens to be able to properly explain what kind of city they'd like to live in. That's the starting point, and we can begin designing a...
And all of that sounds good, innit? Like, how do you want to live? You know, what type of city do you want to live in? Not realizing that everything has an ulterior motive, man. It's all for the Lord's plan to play out anyway.
Smart city based on those demands.
Imagine you're the mayor of a city and want to turn it into a smart city. You'd have to consider the following. First, you need to make your city interconnected by adding sensors that collect data, for instance to cars and streetlights, to be able to regulate traffic, or to measuring stations stationed throughout the town that measure pollution levels.
And these things are easier done via the 5G. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they got like a 6G or something which is faster than the 5 to help these things move more efficiently.
The smart city is usually a combination of the different urban systems that we have. For the most part, that means mobility systems, housing systems, administrative systems, energy systems, education systems, and so on. Anything affecting citizens in their everyday lives can be assigned a digital shadow.
Anyway, I'll stop it there. You can see the idea behind the things and how that progresses to smart cities, so on and so forth. Oh yeah, the brother saying the movie Demolition Man is a perfect example. Yeah, and it's got a precept. Let's read this precept here. It says Psalms 55:21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Yeah, because that's what Esau does. Yeah, it's going to make life easier, things more efficient. But what was in his heart? So what he's actually pushing it as is not the intention that he actually wants. It says his words were smoother than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Yeah, because there's a hidden agenda behind these things, man. So the video that I want to show now, that the brother actually posted in our WhatsApp group, is this lesson here, this video here, and it also goes to show. I'll post it on the backup channel, and I did that because I wasn't too sure how Esau would receive it, but it's still up, so I thought I'd do a lesson on it, as one of the brothers actually said I should do. And so I'm going to play it now. This shows another part of the infrastructure that they're putting in place, so that the Motb, because at the end of the day, like I was saying, the chip is just what's going to give you access to these things. Yeah, so check this out.
So the UK is currently the head of the G7 group. That's the world's most economically advanced countries. And the UK currently chairs the G7 group. Our Chancellor, who does our economy, called Chancellor of the Exchequer, his name's Rishi Sunak. He put out this video saying that what they want to do is bring in...
And the person that's speaking, his name is Motb Nawaz. He used to be a radio host on a big radio station over here. I won't mention the name. And what he used to do, because a lot of these radio stations, they're pushing out the government narrative on Vanessa. So what he would do, he will give you the scientific evidence. And, while we're in the UK, he was bringing out the Oxford scientific evidence on the Vanessa, which when you listen to it, will actually go against the narrative that his other colleagues were pushing. And he no longer works for this radio station. So this is him now speaking on this.
This thing called the central banking digital currency. They want to replace fiat paper money with digital money as a competitor to Bitcoin and crypto money, right? But instead of being decentralized currency, it will be controlled by a government. It's digital.
And if you think about it, I remember a time when a couple of brothers that I knew that's in the world, they were into all of this Bitcoin. Never really interested me. But I think the higher powers, those that be, push this out to see how things would work, because there's always a hidden agenda behind it.
currency, but controlled centrally through the banks, Bank of England. So instead of having a bank account with whatever, HSBC or Bank of America, you'll have a bank account directly with, in the American context, with the Fed. In the UK, directly with the Bank of England. You have a personal bank account, and you're given digital money in that bank account. These are called central banking digital currencies. The Chancellor of the Exchequer in the UK has already announced their intention to do this as the G7 group. And these, if you look up...
this sounds terrifying.
If you look up the Telegraph newspaper...
Central bank digital currency, is that the one down below?
Digital currency should be programmable. See that one there? Yeah? Now, what they're doing is they're saying, you know, everyone knows that with inflation at over 5%, it's now 5.4%, right? Our fiat money, the paper money, is increasingly becoming worthless, and we're headed towards a big disaster. The Fed wants to raise interest rates. But we're in so much debt that if you raise interest rates, people are going to suffer because everyone, you know, we're living on debt as Western economies. So they realize that this kind of the lifespan of paper money is fast coming to an end because of the 2008 economic crash in particular. So they're bringing in these central banking digital currencies. Why is that word programmable in there? So what they said in that article, and the Chancellor put a video out saying this as well, they've said that this money that you will earn from work, instead of having paper money, you have this digital money. It's programmable so that you can't buy certain foods, or if you do something that your employer doesn't like, it's all in that article. You won't be able to spend your money. In other words, it's not money. They're vouchers. They're like food vouchers. And they can be programmed so that, like the Chinese social credit system, that if you try and use them on a certain thing, it won't work. You say you want to buy a burger and they want you to buy bucks, which is one of the examples used. If you start to try and buy unhealthy meat, it just won't work. You tap your card, you can't buy the thing because you've met your quota that month of burgers. You have to buy something like a vegan meal.
So it won't just be money in the sense of the way we have dollars or pounds today.
Yeah.
It'll be something that's controlled in terms of your ability to distribute it.
Which is why I'm calling it a voucher. It's a coupon.
But even a coupon, if you have a coupon to buy bread, you can still buy the bread. Like there's
But you can't buy, see that coupon to buy bread, what you can't do is buy a burger with that coupon. It's for bread.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Do you feel like you're sounding the alarm for people that don't understand what is going on?
So here, I'll put it up for you here, yeah? So there's the video.
And we ourselves, we actually sounded the alarm. And the alarm we're sounding that it's time to get yourself right with the Motb.
The group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote. It could be used alongside
And if you look at him, he looks programmed. Like, yeah, I'm told to say this. I don't really believe it, but yeah, this is a narrative that we're pushing.
That's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. Yeah. And here's a quote from the article. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
And if you look at previous world wars, World War One and World War Two, what happened during that time? They had rationing cards, and with these rationing cards, and even the king, I think it was World War One, had a rationing card, and with these rationing cards, you could only buy what was on the card and only spend it in a specific shop. You had to let them know what you was going to buy at a specific shop. So now we won't have rationing cards. You'll have a chip shop, I'll put it like that, you know, which is programmable for them to say, well, you can only spend this at this place or that place.
I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed, and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them.
So if you're checking in everywhere you go, that's a way of being able to keep track of you. And what does Esau believe he is? He thinks he's like the Most High. The Most High is all seeing and all knowing. This is what he's trying to do. You know, create that system where he becomes the all seeing, the all knowing.
There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system.
Or in the Bible, the man of sin.
So what they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, second most powerful person other than the Prime Minister and maybe the Foreign Secretary in the UK, right? He's telling us, I just played it there for you. He's telling us that's what he, as the UK, the head of the G7, want to bring in for the G7. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote directly, yeah, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you. Sorry, your vouchers don't allow you to purchase that ticket to go and speak to Joe.
Now, that's starting to sound familiar, like something in the scriptures.
This is where we get into the kind of censorship that we see in social media that is not, you can't have that kind of censorship with the First Amendment in normal discourse. But you can have that kind of censorship if you've developed a digital platform that distributes information, but it's a private company. So think about what money is, where you can spend it on whatever you want, versus this digital currency, which is essentially controlled in a sense. Like you have free speech on Twitter, but you really don't. Because if you go too far or you talk about something that they don't find appropriate, they'll just ban your account.
Now, I'm going to stop it there because this video is actually posted up on the backup channel originally. So we can go to the backup channel, which is Yahweh's Messengers Bar. We've watched 5 minutes of it, another 5 minutes to go and see the rest of that video. But, you know, like we've been telling our people, you know, that the Motb is being put in place, man, and the foundation is being laid. This is, let's see, what's happening there? Yeah, this is, read some of these comments. This is my shot. Psalms 22:11, because they intend evil against thee. Yeah. Because even though these things are played off as something which can make life easier, you know, benefit us all, they have their own agenda behind all of this. You see, it says they imagine a mischievous device which they are not able to perform. And why? Because at the end of the day, the Most High is controlling all of this. He's the one that's putting it in their mind to do this, but they will not be able to perform or bring it to completion what they're trying. This is DTB, Yahweh's Messengers, Psalms 37:12. The wicked plotteth against the just. And at the end of the day, who is all of this against? It's against the just. Could you bring up this precept? I'm going to go back to that. This is Revelation 12. Revelation 12:17 says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, which is Israel, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. But which part of the seed? Not all Israel is Israel. Most of our people want to be part of the world. But it says, which keep the commandments of the Most High. Yeah, that's the just and the testimony of Yahweh Shai. So going back to the brother's precept, it says Psalms 37:12, the wicked plotteth against the just, against those that are keeping the commandments and the faith of Yahweh Shai, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. Yeah, that's a beautiful precept, man. Yeah, so you know, going back to this is Psalms 64:5. They encourage themselves in evil matter. Yeah, and what's the evil matter? To get everybody to take that Motb. But for them to do that, they have to put certain things in place. It's not going to just happen like pow. You have to take, you know, something from a fish and chip shop. No, there's processes and foundations that have to be laid. It says they commune of laying snares privily. That's what it is, a snare. They say, who shall see them? Because they believe that the Most High ain't checking out anything that they're doing, man. I want to see what this says. They commune of laying snares. What's a snare?
Strong's H 4170. Mokesh. Mokesh.
They commune of laying a bait. Yeah, when you go fishing, you use a bait. And what does that bait do? Make the fish think, yeah, this is something that I want. And when you latch onto that bait, that's it, you're hooked, man. It says for catching animals, in this case, people, namely the Israelites, literally or figuratively, by implication, a hook for the nose be ensnared. Jinn, snare, trap. That's what it is, man. It's a trap. A trap always looks good until you actually fall into it and you realize, right, this isn't something that I wanted in the first place or needed. And this is Psalm 64:5. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? Because they don't believe that the Most High is actually taking note of anything that they're doing because they've been getting away with it for so long. But the reason why they're getting away with it for so long is because the Most High is giving Jake the time to repent. Yeah, that's why it says they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Like some of the plans that Esau has is generational plans. Those that started off this plan don't think it will happen in their time, but it's their seed. Yeah, that's the diligent search that they're doing, man. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Yeah. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded, because as much as they're planning, they're not going to get away with their plan, even though it may seem like it. This is Psalms 10:3. For the wicked boasteth of his heart desire, and blesseth the covetousness whom Yahweh abhorreth. So the wicked through the pride of his countenance, and this is something which Esau is full of. Pride. Yet will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. And could you get this? This is Job 21. Job 21. It says they will not seek after the Most High. Yeah. Job 21 and 9. Their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of the Most High upon them. And why is their house safe from fear? Because the Most High is not actually judging them directly for the wickedness that they do. We're the ones that's being judged directly. When you read Amos 3 verses 1 and 2, you know, you only have I known of all the nations, families of the earth, therefore I'll punish you for all your iniquities. So Esau is getting away with the wickedness, or believe he is getting away with the wickedness that is doing. But it's just a case of your sins is just building and building and building till you get destroyed. It says, their bull gendereth and faileth not, their cow calveth and casteth not a calf. Meaning everything that they're doing, they seem to be prospering in what they're doing, which is why Jake likes to follow Esau in what he does. But the scripture says, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. It says they send forth their little ones like a flock, and their child danceth. They take the timbrel and harp and rejoice at the sound of the organ. They spend their days in wealth, yeah, generational wealth. Yeah, like Jake might actually get a deal of some sort and make money. Like Kanye, he's got like 9 billion. But when Esau's ready, he can stop him from actually using that dough. Bill Cosby. Yeah. It says they spend their days in wealth and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore they say unto the Most High, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. Yeah. This is Esau, man, in his pride. Thinks that everything that he's doing, you know, is of himself, not realizing it's the Most High that's making him able to do all of this for his great grand finale. Job 21:15. What is the Almighty that we should serve him, and what profit should we have if we pray unto him? Yeah, you know, they don't believe that there's any profit in serving the Most High, because the devil himself, like we like to say, he does bless. So if you're not doing the will of the Most High and you're being blessed, he was actually blessing you. That's right. You know, as the brother said, that cunning unto man. This is Revelation. And what is all of this infrastructure laying up to? Like, what is the purpose of it at the end of the day? Revelation 13 and 16, and he causeth all, both small and great. So like I was saying, I think it was the First World War, when you had and war is something which is prophesied in the scriptures, which also can perpetuate these things here. You know, they were dealing with food ration, and even the king. Let's see if I can find that quickly. World War I. Oh, here we go. It says in 1980, new laws set by the government introduced rationing, a way of sharing food fairly. Sugar, meat, flour, butter, margarine, and milk were all rationed so that everyone got what they needed. Each person had specific ration cards, even King George and Queen Mary. Yeah. So that goes into what we were saying here. Revelation 13 and 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And what that's mark? What is that mark? You know, your fish and chips. It says, and that no man might buy or sell. Yeah, going back to the video. Check this out. This part here. We'll play this.
Yeah.
Like you have free speech on Twitter, but you really don't. Because if you go too far or you talk about something that they don't find appropriate, they'll just ban your account.
You see?
That could be what we're looking at in terms of what we think of as free speech being social media platforms, could be what we think of as your free range ability to buy whatever you want with whatever money that you've earned.
So what's going on here, right? What's going on here is, with this central banking digital currency, if you get to that situation where you end up with the Chinese social credit system in the West, why would anyone want to do that, right? I believe we're in a moment of the Gutenberg press. Go back to when the printing press was invented. Technology disrupts power structures. It always has. Printing and its invention was a new technology. What happened when they invented the printing press? The power structures, who up until that point were reading the Bible for you and were telling you that you've got to pay this priest X amount of favors and he'll forgive you your sins. And that became a bribery system, right? Which is what Martin Luther was so upset about when he pinned his thesis to the wall. The printing press disrupted that power dynamic because people could read the Bible for themselves. And they began realizing that the power structures were manipulating what was written to control people. Now, nobody in hindsight is going to argue that printing and its invention is a bad thing for humanity. But at the time, it led to war. It led to the 30 Years' War in Europe. Because it disrupted power so much that people began rising up, and it led to this 30-year period of war, which eventually...
And we see what normally happens through war. Rationing, rationing cards, and now it will be a rationing fish and chip.
Led to the Reformation, and the rest is history, right? What's today's Gutenberg press? The internet. The decentralization of information, and then because of that, the decentralization of currency in the form of crypto is disrupting power. Because the way that after the revolution of the Reformation and the printing press, control was still possible, though obviously not to that level, which is why we no longer have those absolute monarchies. But control in a nation-state context was still possible to an extent because the money supply was controlled. Now, what's happening is that the invention of the internet, with the decentralization of information, and in particular here, the decentralization of currency in the form of cryptocurrencies, is disrupting those power hierarchies, and it's leading to this conflict now. And we're in a moment when the printing press was invented, the powers that be needed to try and hold on to that power as the 30 Years' War kicked off.
Yeah, and what the scripture speaks about, Esau, the devil, Salakia, no, we know what the devil is, but it says the devil knows that he has but a short space of time. So now it's coming down on everyone with great wrath, man.
They eventually lost it, but to hold on to it, they became very brutal because they were losing their grip on power. Today, to have the infrastructure in place that you can have a checkpoint Charlie society, so that when the central banking digital currencies are in place, that infrastructure is already there because people were so scared they voluntarily allowed you to put that in place.
And that's what's happening. The infrastructure is being put in place, and it's basically near enough all in place, if not in place. Just waiting for that catastrophe that can allow them to then activate what's already put in place.
So that you can maintain your grip on power, because what's coming around the corner is the decentralization of everything, of media, therefore of narrative, and of course, remember, whoever defines the truth gets to define reality. Decentralization of the economy through crypto. You no longer have the power to define the story and control the money supply. So the powers that be, who are losing that power, need to clamp down. They're clamping down on their own children, because we are people who are born of the West. So it's an internal civil war in a hybrid war context over truth and over information. Centralization versus decentralization. It's no longer about left or right. It's about up versus down. It's about power versus those who don't have power.
Do you think if there was no cryptocurrency, if there was no Bitcoin or any of the other crypto coins, that they would attempt to do some sort of digital currency? Do you think that this is a response to the understanding that decentralized digital currency is eventually going to take over, or has gained far more momentum than they ever anticipated?
I think so. And also decentralized media, because you can't control the narrative.
Right.
Now, we will get out of this because ultimately it's a numbers game. And ultimately, in times like this, you end up fighting against your own sons.
Mm-hmm. The only way we're going to get out of this is through Yahweh Hashem Shai, because this is the Most High's plan at the end of the day anyway. Yeah, but we go back to this revelation. So like I said, you can see how the infrastructure is being laid and literally in place for the most part. It's just for that catastrophe to happen that then puts everything in the goal. So this is Revelation 13 and 16, and he calls of all, both small and great. Yeah, rationing. Who had it? King George and Queen Mary. Says he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And what's that mark? The charagma. And that no man might buy or sell. Isn't that what we've been hearing? Save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Says, here is wisdom, let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Isaiah 14 speaks about that. That man tries to sit in the throne of the Most High as if he is God. In that day you're going to realize it's just a man. Yeah, you're not God. Let's look at Isaiah 14 and 12. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Because Lucifer wasn't translated. It was kept as it was. It means morning star. And that real morning star really is Yahweh Shai. But this is what Esau does. Portrays himself as an angel of light. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nation? How? Through your philosophies, through your lies, your doctrines. It says, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mountain of congregation in the sides of the north. And this is all pride, because we know there's only one power, which is Yahweh. I will ascend above the heights of the cloud. Yeah, that is the highest power. And he has given that authority to his son Yahweh Shai. That's why we say Kalalal, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. All praises to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, and you can never be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to a lower state, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdom? And says, is this the man Yeah, and the reason why the Most High is raising up Esau in this manner, it's like he raised up Pharaoh in Egypt. There's a purpose behind that, man. Romans 9:17. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, and Pharaoh today is Esau. Yeah, that's the modern day Pharaoh. Even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Because the Most High is coming to put his name back on the map through Yahweh Shai. Yeah, that's what's happening, man. So yeah, just something I want to do quickly, touching on that lesson, showing that the infrastructure for the mark of the beast is being put in place. For those who have eyes to see, it's there. But with that, I'm gonna give all praises. Actually, I'm gonna read this precept. It's from yeah. It says Psalms 83, 58 and 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, which is what Esau does, man. Speaking lies. Have you believing that everything that's being done is for your benefit, which we know it's not. But yeah, something I wanted to quickly go through. Hopefully you find it edifying. With that, I'm going to close out. I'm going to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Maharak HaKadosh, Kwam Masha Allah.